Now that you've found UBN Radio and discovered our quality talk shows, it's time to spread the word to friends, family, and the universe. 24 hours of music and talk. Radio without limits. That's why people keep coming back for more. That's UBNradio.com.
It's time for the Bonnie Sher Show, a whirlwind of wit, wisdom, celebrity, and the boomer life. With a little bit of this and a lot of that and so much more you don't want to miss, here's Bonnie.
Well, hello, and thank you for joining us and tuning in and phoning in and all those things you do and joining our chat. I want to thank Wayne Cobbin for my super duper hero theme song. Thanks, Wayne. I'm Bonnie Sher, and I am your host through the world of celebrity, the great boomer generation, and the world of type 1 diabetics. However, today, almost all of that is off the table, and we are here for one reason and one reason only, and that is to celebrate what would have been Sammy Davis Jr.'s 91st birthday. I have a wonderful show lined up for you and some guests with me who can truly tell you the story. My first guest up is funny man, actor, comic, with Sammy for years, with Sinatra for, I think, 126 years. And his name, of course, is Tom Dreesen. And we have the lovely, exquisite, fabulous dancer, Suzanne Charny. And just to keep you updated on what's happening for the future of Sammy Davis Jr., we have with us Sammy's youngest son, Manny Davis. So all in all, it ought to be a great 50 minutes. So please settle in and help me welcome my first guest, the fabulous Tom Dreesen. You like how we packed him in?
Oh, I love your audience.
You see what she's wearing over there?
Oh, yeah. And I talked to her prior to the show, and I talked to some of the other people in the audience, and I'm going to, after the show, go out with a couple of them for dinner. This is just a wonderful...
You're going to go to Roscoe's Chicken and Waffles across the street?
Wherever they want to pick up the check. You know,
Well, now that I've confused myself totally, Tom, you spent a long time working with Sammy and knowing him, and something tells me that you might have some stories to share that folks don't know. I mean, it seems like just about everybody has a Sammy Davis Jr. story. If they met him for 2 minutes, they were already his best friend. And I would get crazy because we would be out to dinner and somebody would walk up and say, "Oh, Mr. Davis, my next door neighbor's cousin used to ride the bus with the girl who went to school." And Sammy would stand up and graciously say, "Mishpucha." Family, for those of you who don't know. I know you've seen and heard a lot. Share with us, please.
Well, what happened, I first of all, I started out in show business with a comedy team. Tim Reed and I were America's first black and white comedy team. History shows we were the last. From 1969 to 1975, we toured the nation as the first black-white comedy team. And there were no comedy clubs in those days, so we worked all black clubs in those days, what they called the Chitlin Circuit, black-owned, black-operated nightclubs, and as well as we worked all white clubs, too. But and one of the part of the Chitlin Circuit was the Club Harlem in Atlantic City. It was a 20 grand in Detroit, the Sugar Shack in Boston, the High Chaparral in Chicago, the Guys and Gals Lounge. And then we got the apex of it all was the Club Harlem in Atlantic City. When you got there, you reached the apex of the Chitlin Circuit. That's where Sammy's father, we called him Daddy Sam, actually went across the street and met his mother, met Sammy's mom. That's how far back.
Oh, very.
Yeah, exactly. And anyhow, so now the team stayed together 6 years, and the team splits up, and Tim wanted to be more of an actor. As you know, he later became Venus Flytrap on WKRP Cincinnati. He was on a show called Sister, etc. And I got out here to the West Coast. In those days, wherever you went in America, in 1975, wherever you went in America, people say, what do you do for a living? You say, I'm a stand-up comedian. The next question out of their mouth is, oh, yeah? You ever been on Johnny Carson? If you hadn't been on Johnny Carson, the answer
right.
you weren't a comedian. You might want to be, you might going to be, but you weren't now. So one appearance on that show changed your whole career. Freddie Prinze did one appearance the following day, got a sitcom. I did one appearance on The Tonight Show, and the next day CBS signed me to a development deal. But when I did my first appearance on The Tonight Show, the next day a whole new world opened up to me. I was doing Dinah Shore, Merv Griffin, Mike Douglas, Johnny Carson, Midnight Special, Rock Concert, Soul Train, American Bandstand. I was doing all these shows. But there was one show that I wanted to do called Sammy and Company, because I had seen Sammy Davis do something so extraordinary when I was with the comedy team at a Black Exposition in Chicago. And I wanted to meet this man. I saw something that I talk about in my one-man show now that no entertainer could have ever done, an extraordinary performance, and I'll get to that in a moment. But I wanted to do Sammy and Company. So I told my agent at William Morris, Debbie Miller, I said, please get me on that show. She tried to get me on the show. She said, Tommy, they need bigger names. Sammy's ratings weren't real high, so they were going for the biggest names they could get. So they passed on me, and I kept begging, try again. She said, Tommy, you're doing all these other shows. Why do you want to do that show? I said, because I saw this man do something. I want to meet him. And to this day, it's the most extraordinary show I've ever seen in my life. But so she said, she tried again. And Bill Cosby was to do Sammy's show in Lake Tahoe. And he canceled at the last minute. So Debbie Miller called me and she said, we got you on. Can you get to the airport? It was in the afternoon. Can you get to the airport right now, Burbank Airport? And I rushed over there. When I was in flight, the producer from Sammy's show, Eric, called her and said, we already got a guy. Tell Tom, no need to do it. She said, Eric, please don't cancel him. Please don't cancel him. She almost started crying on the phone. Finally, he said, okay. So I got there, and I had a routine that I would do about me growing up in an all-black neighborhood. I did an album a couple of years later called That White Boy is Crazy. It's the only in front of an all-black audience. I'm the only white comedian to ever do an album in front of an all-black audience. So I wanted to do this routine about me playing on an all-black basketball team, me playing on an all-black football team, because I thought Sammy would really appreciate this. The producer said to me, Tom, I saw you on The Tonight Show doing that routine about growing up in a black neighborhood. I don't want you to do that routine. I said, but Eric, that's what I prepared to do. In your head, you got it all set what you're going to do. This is about 10 minutes before I'm going on. He said, no, I don't want you to do that. He said, Johnny Carson's white. I saw you doing Johnny Carson's white, Sammy's black. And I said, no. And that made him matter. But he finally said to me, okay, because I was so adamant I wanted to do this. He said, go do it, because I know what he's thinking. This is a taped show. We'll just cut him out of it. But I went out and I did that routine, and Sammy fell off the couch. He fell off the couch. He said to me, in one of the jokes that he it hung with him, I was talking about a black guy I grew up with that was a tough guy in my neighborhood, but was very smart. I said, some of the black guys in my neighborhood weren't that smart because they thought I was a Chinese guy named Seifu. I said, every time I'd walk by, they holler, Seifu. Well, Sammy fell off the couch. After that, when he said, I'm taking you on the road with me. He said, I'm taking you on the road with me.
Wait a minute, that's your email.
Well, I know that's my email, but by the way, every show we went to do, Sammy would take my name off the wall. He'd take my name off my dressing room door and put Seifu on it. And that became my name, But that relationship, I mean, and then he took me on the road. We're doing one-nighters all over the country, and then we're going to Vegas. And this will show you what Sammy Davis was all about. He said to me one night at the Mill Run Theater in Chicago, have you ever worked Las Vegas? And I'm new in the business. I said, no, I've always wanted to work. He said, well, you opened there in January with me. And I sent you a picture of my name on the marquee with Sammy. When I'm pulling into Las Vegas, to think this little boy from the south side of Chicago, I'm finally going to appear in Las Vegas, and to see your name on the marquee with Sammy Davis Jr. When we were in the car, we were pulling into Caesars, and they were putting his name up on the marquee. And they had my name up real small. First of all, I was great, what am I looking for? I was, grateful that they even put my name on the marquee, because in those
And
days,
spelled it right.
yeah, big stars wouldn't let, they only put their name on the marquee. You know, when Tom Jones or Diana Ross appeared in Vegas and they put their name on the marquee, there wasn't room to park your car in the parking lot, let alone have your name up there. But Sammy stopped the car. He told the guys that were on the board, he said, you know, take his name down, put it back up so they can hear it. And the guy on the marquee said, Sammy Davis, and he yelled at the other guy. He said, Al, it's Sammy Davis. Sammy had the limo pulled to the side, told the guy, pull over. And the guy said, Sammy said, put his name up bigger. And the guy showed Sammy the contract. He said, Sammy, this is what it says, 10%. Sammy said, it's my marquee. This is his first time in Las Vegas. Put his name up there so people can see it. And I showed that in my one-man show, that marquee. Now we go inside. Nat Brandywine, the conductor, said to me at rehearsal, he said, Tommy, you're going to do 20 minutes. Sammy will do an hour and 10. Now, in those days at Caesar's Palace, they serve food, that dinner show. That's when all the critics came. They send you out while people are eating. And it was a high ceiling. Comedians hate high ceilings, A. The lower the ceiling, the bigger the laughs. Laughter is sound, it's the ceiling. Sammy knows all this. He said, Tom, you'll do 20 minutes. Sammy will do an hour and 10. Sammy said, no, Nat, this is Tommy's first time in Vegas. He's got to score. He said, Tommy, if you score and the critics love you, you'll be able to come back. He said, I'll come out and I'll do 3 songs. He said, and then I'll bring Tommy out. He knew they would all be eating dinner. You know, now, when the headliner comes out and starts singing, the waiters and waitresses, they got to have that room cleared. They'd be taking food off the table, and people weren't even started eating yet. You know, they were snatching food. Sammy would sing 3 songs. Then he would bring me, you see, and this is how he introduced me every night, Bonnie. He'd say, ladies and gentlemen, you've been, after his 3rd song, he'd say, you've stuck with me through the years, the good times and the bad times. He said, and I look at my audience like family. He said, when somebody does something like that for you, you want to do something for them, like maybe bring them a gift. I got a gift for you. I saw this young kid on my show, and I think you're going to like him. Here's my gift to you. Welcome, please, Tom. That's how he brought me out every night. First of all, it worried me to death because that's just too big of an introduction. But by the time he finished 3 songs, that audience was right up on top. And I walk out every night and got great reviews, and I've been working in Las Vegas ever since that day. And I attribute that to Sammy, you know. And, you know.
Well, he was your opening act. I mean, what?
By the way, you know my opening line was every night I'd walk out and I'd say, ladies and gentlemen, they'd applaud. I said, thank you very much. I said, all my life I dreamed that I worked Las Vegas. And I also dreamed that it might be Caesar's Palace. But I never dreamed that Sammy Davis Jr. would be my opening act. And Sammy would get...
There you go.
Sammy would laugh. And I'll tell you something else. That afternoon, the first time I appeared in Vegas, you know, I had paid a lot of dues in my career, but I'm pacing the stage. I went out there. There's no one out there. We had finished rehearsal. Sammy saw me. He came out of his dressing room. He said, are you all right? I said, yeah. He said, a little bit nervous? I said, yeah, it's my first time in Vegas. He said, see these boards here on the stage? You earned every one of those boards. You paid your dues to get here. They can't take these boards away from you. This is your stage, not theirs. If they could do what you do, they'd be up here. But they're in the audience. This is your stage. Don't let them take that from you. That was his advice to me, you know. And again, for the years I toured with Sammy over 3 years. I sat in the wings almost every single night watching this incredible human being perform. Mm-hmm. There's never been anybody like him, Bonnie. Never in our business like Sammy Davis. Sammy Davis could do it all. He could sing as good as anybody out there. Frank Sinatra told me, he said, Sammy never hit a clinker. Frank would hit a clinker once in a while. Sammy never hit a clinker. Sammy could sing as good as anybody out there. He could dance.
And he only got better.
He could dance as good as anybody out there. He could do comedy as good as any comedian I met. He could do impressions better than any impression out there. He could play the piano. He could play the trumpet. He could play the drums. There was nothing he couldn't do on a stage. That, and he was the Jackie Robinson of show business.
Yes,
he opened those doors for all the... Whenever I see young black comics making fun of him or aping him or mimicking him, and not in a kind way, I always pull him aside and say, I don't know if you know it or not, but this is the Jackie Robinson of our business. Do you know what he did, the dues he paid, so that you one day, you know, would be where you're at today, you know? But they don't know, and that breaks my heart.
Well, hopefully we'll get the word out, and we'll scream it and yell about it, and it will be their gift, just as it's been ours. Gee, Tom, you've brought up a lot of memories for me. I had very similar experiences with him. He was not only gracious with me, and I was a stupid 17-year-old little girl, you know, but he made me feel like I could do anything, and that it was up to me to just get out there and do it. And I think one of the best things I've done in a very long time is to reach out to you
Well,
and to ask you to please be my special guest on this show. It's a very important day for me, and you have just taken it to another dimension, Tom.
Thank you.
Please let our viewers and listeners know how they may follow you.
You can go to my
But not in a bad way.
You can go to my website, tomdreesen.com. It's DREESEN, tomdreesen.com. And I'm doing a one-man show. I mean, I do stand-up comedy all around the country, and I MC for corporations, and I'm acting and doing all that stuff. But I also doing a one-man show now called An Evening of Laughter and Memories of Sinatra. It's a 90-minute show where I come out and do stand-up comedy, but then I go to a bar, and I start telling stories of Sinatra, and pictures come on the screen, authenticating the story as well as film. But in there, I talk about Sammy, and I talk about the most extraordinary performance I'd ever seen in my show business career. I talk about that moment and that time and what it was like touring with Sammy Davis Jr. So it's a wonderful show.
Please let me know where you're going to be, when you're going to be there. I'll get the word out from here. And you'll definitely be seeing me in your audience going, Tom, remember me?
I appreciate that, yeah.
Well,
Yeah, I do
ladies
it
and
around
gentlemen, thanks to Tom Dreesen. See, we were a great gaggle of kids hanging around. Before we go to break, or as we go to break, I have a piece of film that I'd like you to take a look at. As Tom just said, there was nothing that Sammy couldn't do. And one of my very favorite things was to watch him dance. So I hope this will be one of your favorite things, too. Go ahead, have a look.
Anything that's really sort of old-fashioned variety vaudeville style. Let's do one number like that. I think I have my vaudeville prop back here. Yes, here we go. No man worth his union card would be caught without one of these. Me and my shadow strolling down the avenue. Me and my shadow, no one I can tell my troubles to. You've gone too far this time, Sir Percy. When it's 12 o'clock, I just simply climb the stairs. I never knock, because there ain't gonna be nobody up there but me and I said me and my shadow, all alone and feeling blue. Two, 4, 6, 8. We don't want to integrate.
See, what did I tell you? Amazing. Well, welcome back. And joining me in this segment is a woman that I met with Sammy. This is probably 1990, and the Professional Dancers Association was having a luncheon, and they were honoring Sammy. And I was seated next to this woman, and she's become one of my best friends. She is a well-known actress, nominated for an Emmy, as I remember, known, I guess, even more as a dancer. I'm going to stop talking and just go ahead and introduce you to Suzanne Charny.
Talk, I like it.
Was it the exquisite, the gorgeous?
I love all of that embellishment. Keep it on.
You only had to pay me a very little bit today, you know. Suzanne, I mean, let me tell you, Suzanne is not only a phenomenally talented woman, but she's funnier than hell. And
It's too much pressure. Let me get out of here.
That's okay. We do
Let's
pressure
talk about
well.
Sammy.
All right, so tell me something funny about Sammy.
I could tell you, well, I'll give you a quick kind of overlay of everything. I saw Sammy when I was a little girl. My uncle, which I didn't like, took me to the American Italian Grocers Association.
Ooh,
And I
you
was-
were rocking it.
Yeah, I was a little girl, and I saw this little boy with his family singing and dancing, and it was Sammy. Oh, did I get a crush on him? I want to be a dancer, and I want to dance with him when I grow up. I got to dance with him at parties, but that was about it. Sammy and I then again met. I did a show in New York before a lot of people's times called Hullabaloo, and he was on the show. And I met him, and during that show, he got bad news, that his friend Nat King Cole died. And I remember this was Sammy. This was the little boy that I saw on stage that I fell in love with because I was much younger than him. Not that much, but younger than him. He was devastated, and the professional he was, he did get a little brown bag with a little Johnny Walker in it to get through, but he did that show. He rehearsed and he did it, and it was incredibly emotional. They were very good friends and admired each other's, talent.
Mm-hmm.
So that was the second time I met Sammy. And then I did a movie called Sweet Charity, and he was on it,
did.
and we worked on different days. So I didn't really see him until we both did a Johnny Carson show together. And on the Johnny Carson show, he did the first interview and spieling with Johnny, and then he sat on the panel, and then I got out and I did my song and dance, and then I sat down and I was thirsty, and Johnny Carson said, "You want a glass of water?" I said, "I'd love it." He gives me something to drink, and it was booze, and I spit it out. It was vile. And then Ed McMahon said, "I'll give you something to drink, don't worry." And the same thing, I spit it out. And then Sammy said, "No, this girl needs water." He puts his hands out, and Johnny Carson poured water into his hands, and I started drinking out of Sammy's hands. And Sammy said, "This is the first time you saw a white girl drink out of a black man's hands." Enormous laughter. And Sammy and I became close. Part of it was because Altavis, his wife, and I went to high school together. And
Right, sure.
we were very, very close in high school. I went through a lot with Altavis and Sammy when they had little arguments or whatever, and went to the house quite often. And my daughter loved going there because it was so opulent. And Sammy always gave me advice. He's a good man. He told me, "You're making money now, but save it." I should have listened.
He should have listened.
I know.
He used to tell me the same thing. Yeah,
I just got a hole in my pants, and it went into an enormous thing. My whole kneecap is sticking out. It's a good thing I'm sitting here and you don't see it.
America now knows, but they see this in Paris too. It'll become a fashion statement. Haven't you seen all those girls walking around with their jeans all cut up? And somebody wanted to know why I didn't have jeans like that. I said, because I threw them away. They were torn.
We did it in the 60s.
We did everything in the 60s. Everything old is new again, including us.
Let's not talk.
So I found that there were a few different Sammys that, much like what my understanding was of your dance master, it was very serious. I remember Sammy used to say to me, that's why they call it show business, not show fooling around. That when we were rehearsing, that was it. We might be rehearsing a gag,
Right.
but we were very serious about the gag that we were rehearsing.
Yeah.
So there was that side where he was, sort of in charge and took charge. But then there were those other moments, like he said, at the house, when he used to have what we called the living room people.
Yes.
Would come up. I mean, these were not the A-list celebrities. These were the pals and the friends, and we were invited up. Sammy used to get
Movies.
first-run movies from the studios, and he had us set up in the house, and we'd all sit down and Saturday night or Friday night watch these movies. And half the time, the party was more fun than the movie.
Yeah. The candy was never good. It
The
was always
candy-
stale. Stale candy.
He loved his sweets more than anybody I have ever known.
I had the privilege of being invited when Sammy performed at the Sands, and he had his own airplane, a chartered plane. And I was on the chartered plane, and he had these necklaces, gold necklaces with his face on it.
Yes.
And that was like the pass at the Sands. You don't have to pay for a drink. The room is taken care of. Don't worry.
Yes. Yes. And there are pictures of him wearing that. I know.
You'll never guess who I sat next to.
So who?
Charo.
Charo?
Charo.
The Chico.
Oh, she was so fun. I was so glad I sat next to Chicky Chicky Boom. That's an old joke. You know how Carmen Miranda died?
No, Suzanne.
She fell off her shoes. You know what her last words were? Chicky Chicky Boom.
They're not laughing.
I'm hysterical. I don't care.
Well, I care about you, and I care that you came here to be with us on the show today. And I know that you have been not dancing as much and have really...
I'm titanium. That's
You
why.
are. I know you're made of titanium, but within that titanium are the hands of a delightful artist and sculptor, and I want to wish you all of the best with that. I'm sorry I didn't pull photographs of those today also, but after a couple of photographs of you and that body of yours, I was done looking for photographs of you. That was enough for me. Thank you very much. All of you, please say thank you to Suzanne Charny. Follow her on Facebook. That's Charny, Charny. They want to put an E in it, but don't let them. Come back and see us again soon,
I
Suzanne.
love you. I'm leaving with my exposed kneecap.
Oh, yeah, I love when a plan comes together. Well, I have one more little clip that I'd like to squeeze in here at this time. And this, too, was my Sammy. Play it, please.
Whatever has happened, don't let nobody put you down, and don't put yourself down. Fight for it.
because it's very funny, but I know there's got to be several young people here who are like 5 years old, right? If he's a boy, male, it's just possible. Now, it's now becoming a possibility that that young man, by the time he's 50, could be running for the president of the United States. It's no longer like, well, man, I'm colored, I ain't gonna make it no more and all that. It ain't like that no more. And what happens is that all of the civil rights, all the marches, all the people who have died in the civil rights struggle will have died in vain if, and the bigots will win out if once the opportunity, once the doors are open, no one is prepared for it. It's one thing to say, give me a chance, man, I'm going to fight for it, and the cat says blah, 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 and you ain't prepared for it. That's it. It happens to me in my business, and I know it happens in all walks of life.
Yet another side of Sammy. Speaking of sides of Sammy, I happen to have a son of Sammy here with me now as my guest. And please welcome him back. He's been here with me before. And the he who I am talking about is Manny Davis. Say hi.
Hello, people. Hello, Bonnie. How you doing again?
Hello, Manny.
High five.
Hey, baby.
How are you doing today?
Well, you know how I get a little verklempt around this time. So putting this show together it's been a joy, but truly a labor of love. There was first of all, there were so many clips. There was so much that I wanted to try and pack into, a 50-minute show, because that's all they let me do. And we've spent a lot of time talking about the past and Sammy's stories. However, my friend, you represent to me the future.
Thank you.
And I need a future. Tell us, what's going on? What are you up to now? Now, I know that you are the executor, am I correct?
The administrator.
The administrator.
That's what they call me.
We'll administrate this. I'll show you how to administrate later. What does that entail? What do you look for? What does a day in the life of Manny Davis look like?
Okay, so basically, since the last time we spoke, we actually went to the street naming ceremony. But after that
was big.
It was wonderful.
That was big. What we're talking about is Las Vegas finally got wise with some pushing from a few good friends, and they named a street, Sammy Davis Jr. Drive, which intersects Frank Sinatra Drive and Dean Martin Drive right behind Caesar's Palace. And they had a heck of an event. And so that's what Sammy, Dan. Tell the white one I want to talk to him. That was how it was. Tell us about that and what's going on now.
Okay, since the last time that happened, the family came together and actually settled the rights. And so now we were able to conglomerate all the state's assets, and we're a 100% entity right now. And with that, we were able to sit there and help Eminem Mars celebrate their 75th anniversary with that new Candyman song they came out with. So Zed and Aloe Black, they redid the song, and we were able to sit there. It was a whole year-long campaign. So hopefully now we can reach the other countries this year if they renew. But other than that, I'm working with Lionel Richie on bringing a Sammy Davis Jr. motion picture out, and once we get an option, we'll have that started. I'm also working on my book. It's called Little Orphan Manny. You got to sit there in Hollywood. You got to have that kind of like a corny title to go with your name, but.
Well, you come from the Corn Belt, my darling.
I'm corn.
We all did corn.
The children of the corn, But as well, actually, at the end of next year, probably around August or September, I did something with American Masters, and so on PBS. So they're coming out with a documentary next year. Is coming out. So we have all those things going on, and actually we're working on coming out with an announcement so the whole world can know that we're open for business, and also the movie announcement, hopefully, and actually also working on the Broadway play. So we have a lot of things going this year, and finally.
Well, listen, it's certainly taken its time in coming around, but there's no bad time.
What a difference a year makes.
Hey,
You know?
sometimes it's a week, Manny.
Mm-hmm.
We've seen that too. We've seen how things can change on a dime and turn on a dime.
Or a day with a nice suit.
Yeah.
You know?
Silly man, silly man. So tell us more about. Okay, so do you have writers in place? Is there a premise for the film? Is that going to be based on Bert Boyer's books, Yes, I Can and Why Me, or a part of it, or are we not talking about that yet?
Well, actually, a lot of people are trying to find out exactly which story to tell about Sammy. And to me, I always say I think it's cute because he did so much that nobody knows what story to tell. And even with the story with my mother and what she did after he passed away and what I'm doing now, that's a 47-year story that we don't get a chance to tell, you know. So it's, I always like to say that Sammy's still alive because his estate hasn't been settled yet. So this is very much a part of his story, and it was so big that people after 28 years, you know, I'm sorry, 27 years almost after he passed away, that they still want to be a part of it and they still want to tell his story. So that's a testament to the man he was to everybody else besides me.
And yours truly. Your dad would be 91 today, and
Hey, you know what's weird? My dad's would be 91 today, but my son just turned 19 2 days ago.
well, that's pretty random. You know, we'll go for that.
Okay. I just turned 40 also on the 18th of November, but
Well, you're just old now.
yes.
You were the kid that I love. Now you're the old dude that I love.
Who's that old guy?
Have you come upon anything that your heart would like to see come into a movie or into an expression? Is there anything? I mean, I know the moments that I have in my mind that are special to me in terms of my years with him. And I mean, even though because of the age difference, people ask me if he was a father figure to me. Yes and no. I was very clear. I mean, first of all, I had a plethora of fathers, as it were.
You had a plethora.
A plethora, yeah, a virtual plethora. My mother had been married 5 times. I was not in a lack of fathers. But somebody who believed in me and wanted to, instead of saying this is silly, don't do this, said this isn't silly, this is who you are, and gave me permission to be what I wanted to be. And I was a child. I was 4 years older than you were at that point. And somehow that never changed. And I think many of us felt that way about Dad. It wasn't that he preached to us. You just knew that he cared enough to say, and it was always a straight jack, you know. I remember the time he said to me, Bonnie, that is the dumbest thing I have ever heard. Really? Ever? And I said it, the dumbest thing. Do I get points for stupid?
It's like, duh, did that not sound dumber?
No, but Sammy had no time for stupidity. He had a lot of time for love, though. That was clear. The parties at the house, we were talking about it a minute ago, the living room people showing up to watch the movies.
I've seen a few. I've seen quite a few.
Yes, you did.
And the candy tasted all right to me. I was a kid. I love candy. I was like a kid in the
Well,
candy
you're
store.
a sweet freak, too. Come on. Come on. I remember when you were staying with me what you wanted to eat.
I ate all your candy.
You did, too. It's probably a good thing. Well, I cannot wait to see what happens now and the stories that are going to be told. And you know I'm holding you to it.
Yeah, and just to answer your question earlier, I just want to educate and re-educate the people of the world about who this man was, and he was the biggest influence in my life, and I'm happy that he gave me this opportunity.
Right.
In the twilight of his.
And think about how many of us there really are. Think about it.
Mm-hmm.
To be touched by him was one thing, but to stay in his company and be and to be his son. I'm sorry, I did a lot. I never got to be his son. Okay, I didn't do son. But listen, he's in you. He's in you, and as long as you're around, he's around me too. So I love you for two reasons.
Love you too, Bonnie.
So you just stay on your path and don't let anybody tell you any different, because nobody knows better than you how you want to honor your father. Don't let anybody else tell you how to do that, except me.
Yeah, I was going to say, yes, godmother.
Now he understands. Manny, how can our audience follow you and know what's happening?
They can always come to you, first and foremost.
There you go. Godmother answers all.
But we also have a Facebook page, the official Sammy Davis Jr. Site, and my friend Matthew Schmitz runs it. And usually people have been able to find me through there, but of course you first. You heard it first.
You heard it first here, Jimmy. Okay, then. I did. You said I'd never say that name. I said it. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for my godson, my sweetheart, my Manny Davis. All the best, Manny.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, you hang tight here. I have one more video to share with you this afternoon. I think it really sums up who Sammy was, how his heart worked, how his head worked, and what joined together, all of those parts that joined together to make him arguably the most magical human being I had ever met and learned to love. How could you not love Sammy? Until next week, we'll get to that tape, but before we do, that's my show for today. I hope you'll return next week for a little more celebrity, some boomer talk, and certainly back to the world of type 1 diabetics. Again, I want to thank today's guests, Tom Dreesen, Suzanne Charny, and of course, my kid here, Manny Davis. And thank all of you for joining in the celebration. Wouldn't be here without you. So, to my friends, old, new, in between, it's pretty obvious now that I shared a very special relationship with Sammy. He was my friend, and he was my mentor. And in the sort of fashion of Carol Burnett, Sammy, a wink and a smile to you always. See you next week.
Bojangles, they dance for you in worn out shoes, silver hair, ragged shirt, baggy pants.
Bojangles is special because I hated the song, because I was afraid to do it, because that's my fear, that I'll wind up like Bojangles.
He could jump so high, man, he could jump real high, and then he'd lightly touch down.
When I do that number, some nights I get so hung up in it. One night in Vegas, I said, oh my God, That's me. I'm projected. That's how I'll be when I'm 70 years old, man. I'll still be working. I'll be working little joints. And I'll talk about what I used to be. And that'll be the end of it.
Talked of life. Talked of life. Laughed. Slapped his leg a step. He said I dance now at every chance. Honky tonks for my drinks and chips. But most of the time I spends behind the county bars. You see, son, I drinks a bit.
That man, that culmination of different black performers, minstrels that I've known, performers who got hooked on junk, who got wiped out by alcohol, got wiped out by changing of times. I've seen them disappear, great dancers.
That's Mr. Bojangles. Call me Mr. Bojangles. Mr. Bojangles, I come back and dance, 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 dance.
You can't please everybody, you know, but you please the majority, and don't ever let them say, gee, I didn't like the performance. That doesn't mean everybody's gonna like what you're doing, but at least they'll be able to say, he performed for me, man. He gave his all.
Damn, that man could dance.